I'm going to be cooking a dish of langoustine and peas from Italy, very typical from Venice, where they love their peas and seafood. I'm using langoustine, fresh peas, spring onions, garlic, basil and a little parsley. So this is a langoustine, scampi in Italian. They're caught mostly in Scotland. They're a deep sea crustacean, perhaps somewhere between a prawn and a lobster. They have the most amazing sweet flavour and they're worth getting when you can. These peas are English and they're best when they're not too big. When they're smaller and quite smooth on the outside, they're full of sugar. And as they get older, they get full of starch. So I've got my peas, 2 cloves of garlic. I'm going to do 1 because this one's massive. For this dish, I just slice it lengthwise. And that will just cook with the peas at the same time. And spring onions, these red ones are from Tropea in Calabria. You can get the continental spring onions, which are lovely and fleshy like these, or normal Chinese spring onions are absolutely fine as well. I'm just going to pare off the roots and cut off the bulb, which I'm going to cut into perhaps quarters or sixths because they're quite big. And the green, I'm just going to slice it very roughly. This is continental flat leaf parsley, which is commoner these days than the English curly one, and I've given it a rinse. It doesn't need to be too fine for this dish. And then I've got some basil, the big leaf kind. I need about a dozen leaves. I'm just going to roughly chop them. And now we're going to prepare the langoustine. If you have ones which are more alive than this, and I hope you do, it's a nice idea to put them in the freezer for 10 minutes before you kill them. The death is quite instantaneous if you cut them as we do. We're going to cut them in half down this line along the head. Crustaceans don't have a brain really. They have a series of little nodes along the centre of the body. And if you split them down the middle, it kills them pretty instantly. They'll keep on moving if they're alive for a little while, but they'll be dead. But they say it's nicer to chill them. These have died a natural death before I got to them. So I put my knife here down the middle and just split down, and that's the head end split, and then I'll turn the langoustine around and go through the tail. Like prawns, they have a digestive tract. If you're fussy about it, you can take it out. For dishes like this, where they're sautéed and then put in a sauce, or for cooking them on the grill, they're best if you open them up. And also they'll release a little bit of juice into the sauce, and all the flavours will marry together. So this is all our preparation done. I've got a cold pan here, and I'm going to put all our vegetables in from cold, and add water and oil and boil them up together. And the flavour we'll get from the onions and from the garlic is going to be a lot milder and a lot fresher than you would if you'd fried them off first. Some water. And the water I want to come just a little bit below the level of the vegetables. And olive oil, about 5 tablespoons. It's a fair bit. That's now ready to go on the heat. I'll add some salt and pepper. So that's just going to come to a boil and then bubble away furiously for about 10 to 15 minutes until the water's reduced away a bit. There's still some liquid there, but it's thickish, and the peas are still green, but tender and soft all the way through. So the peas are tender and the liquid is starting to reduce a little bit, and I think I'm a few minutes before calling it ready. So I'm going to add the parsley now and just stir it through. And this pan I'm heating up without any oil. I'm going to add a bit of oil just before I cook the langoustine, but because we're getting it really hot, if the oil was in from the start, it would scorch and lose its flavour and taste burnt, basically. So I have the sauces still quite runny, but it's getting a little bit of body as it reduces and the sugar comes out of the peas. In the meantime, this pan at the back is now smoking hot. A little bit of oil, a couple of tablespoons, and then in with the langoustine. Normally when you're cooking like this in a really hot pan, it's best not to stir too much. Let them sit for a minute in a hot pan and get a bit of flavour, caramelisation happening, and then turn them and start to move them. You can add a touch of salt, not too much. They're slightly briny from the sea, and there's salt in the peas, and a little pepper. They cook in a matter of moments, and they don't need to be quite finished yet because they'll finish cooking when the peas go in. So I'm going to turn the heat off from the peas and add the basil and just stir it through, and you can see the pan's now quite dry, but there's still a bit of liquid at the bottom. And I'm going to just add those in for the langoustine. And we're done. The dish is ready to serve on a plate. You're going to want finger bowls or something, because people are going to get messy while they eat it. You serve it in a plate or a shallow bowl with a crust of bread to mop up the juices.